Something shifted today, and for millions of people across the United States, it happened quietly, rapidly, and without the kind of notice many were expecting. A policy that retirement experts had been concerned about for months didn't just come up for discussion. It was put into effect. Not next year, not after lengthy debate. Today. And the consequences aren't theoretical. They're personal. It directly impacts how your Social Security benefits are determined, how much you might receive each month, and how much you could miss out on over the course of your retirement years. What makes this moment stand out isn't only the policy itself, but the speed at which it was implemented and how many individuals are only now beginning to understand its significance. Because hidden within this update are changes that could lower lifetime benefits by thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars, depending on when and how you choose to file. And there's already a deadline approaching quietly in the background that could decide whether you're affected or shielded. The real issue isn't just what changed, but why it changed in this way, and whether there's still time to act before that opportunity disappears. Hi, I'm Susan Harper, and in this video, I'm going to guide you through exactly what took place today, what the Social Security Administration updated, who was most impacted, and most importantly, what steps you can still take right now. Because there's a lot of misunderstanding around this announcement and a lot of partial or misleading information circulating, especially among seniors and those nearing retirement. My goal here is simple: to provide a clear and accurate explanation in plain language so you can make informed choices without confusion or guesswork. And to truly understand why today carries so much weight, we need to step back briefly, because the warning signs didn't begin this morning. They actually started months ago, when something unusual began happening behind the scenes. For quite some time, things didn't seem right to those who closely monitor Social Security policy. Not the headlines, not the official statements, but the silence itself. Because under normal circumstances, the Social Security Administration follows a pattern. There are expected updates, scheduled projections, and routine communications that analysts, advocacy groups, and financial planners depend on to anticipate changes. It's not dramatic, but it's consistent. And that consistency is important. It allows experts to interpret subtle signals. But this time, that pattern broke. Expected updates didn't arrive. Familiar indicators like early COLA projections, discussions about benefit adjustments, and previews of policy changes simply stopped appearing. And when that kind of silence occurs within a system as structured as Social Security, it doesn't go unnoticed. Advocacy organizations started raising concerns. Financial analysts pointed out the gap. Retirement planners began cautioning their clients that something might be on the horizon, but no one could say exactly what, because the SSA wasn't communicating anything at all. And historically, when the Social Security Administration becomes this quiet, it usually points to one thing: a significant change is being prepared behind closed doors. That's exactly why this morning's announcement felt different. It wasn't just another routine update or minor adjustment. It was a structural shift. Early today, the SSA released what they referred to as Comprehensive Benefit Restructuring Guidelines, and that phrasing alone immediately raised concerns among experts, because the Social Security system rarely alters its core formula. In fact, the primary method used to calculate benefits, the framework that determines how your lifetime earnings translate into monthly payments, has remained mostly unchanged for decades. So when officials introduce changes at that level, it signals something more serious than routine updates. It points to pressure. It suggests long-term sustainability concerns. And it indicates that decisions are being made not only for today's retirees, but for the future of the entire system. The issue is that changes of this scale usually involve extended public discussion, clear communication, and time for people to adjust. That didn't happen here. Instead, the update arrived quickly, with limited explanation, leaving millions of Americans trying to understand almost in real time what it means for their retirement plans. And as experts began examining the details, one thing became immediately obvious. This wasn't a small tweak. It was a fundamental change to how benefits are calculated, and its effects could follow retirees for decades. To understand what actually changed, we need to look at a part of Social Security that most people never see, but that determines nearly everything about what you receive. It's known as the benefit formula. And at the heart of that formula are what are called bend points. Now, the term might sound technical, but the concept is simple. Bend points are thresholds that determine how much of your average monthly earnings count toward your final benefit and at what percentage. Under the previous system, the formula operated in 3 tiers. You would receive 90% of the first portion of your earnings, 32% of the next portion, and 15% of anything beyond that. This structure was designed to favor lower and middle income earners, providing them with a higher replacement rate relative to their income. But under the new 2026 rule, those percentages have been reduced. Not dramatically at first glance, but enough to make a difference over time. The first tier drops from 90% to 87%. The second decreases from 32% to 29%, and the third goes from 15% to 13%. On paper, that may not appear to be a major change. A few percentage points doesn't seem alarming, but when those percentages are applied across decades of earnings and then extended over 20 or 30 years of retirement, the difference grows. What looks minor today becomes meaningful over time. For many retirees, this could translate to $40 to $75 less per month. And over an entire retirement period, that can amount to tens of thousands of dollars in reduced benefits. And here's the critical detail. This change applies to new beneficiaries starting in 2026, specifically those who have not yet locked in their primary insurance amount. In other words, if you haven't filed yet, this change could directly impact you. And that's exactly why the response from financial experts today wasn't calm or routine. It was urgent. Across interviews, briefings, and advisory discussions, analysts use language that isn't commonly heard in conversations about Social Security policy. They described the change as significant. They called it poorly communicated. And most importantly, they stressed that for many individuals, it may be difficult or even impossible to reverse the effects once certain decisions are made. Because Social Security isn't something you adjust casually. The moment you file, many of your choices become fixed. Your benefit amount is locked in. Your strategy becomes permanent, and that means timing now matters more than ever. What experts were truly warning about wasn't just the formula itself. It was the risk of people making decisions without fully understanding what has changed. Because policy shifts like this don't affect everyone equally. They impact the uninformed the most, the people who assume nothing has changed. The individuals who don't realize that a deadline is quietly approaching in the background. But this time, something different occurred. Instead of confusion leading to inaction, it triggered a response. And that response began almost immediately. If this explanation is helping you understand what's going on, consider subscribing so you can stay updated as new developments emerge and get clear insights without unnecessary confusion. Because what happened today is only the beginning, and what comes next may be just as important. What followed wasn't slow or disorganized. It was immediate and highly coordinated. Within hours of the announcement, major advocacy groups took action. Organizations representing millions of retirees didn't wait for extended analysis or delayed statements. They responded in real time. Alerts were sent to large member networks. Formal objections were submitted through official channels. Petitions began circulating and gathered tens of thousands of signatures almost instantly. At the same time, financial advisors across the country started contacting clients directly, highlighting the urgency of the situation and, in many cases, recommending immediate reviews of retirement strategies. This type of coordinated response is rare in retirement policy. It usually takes days or even weeks for a clear consensus to form. But this time, the reaction was unified almost immediately, and that tells you something important. It shows that the concern wasn't about a single minor adjustment. It was about a broader pattern of changes that, when combined, could significantly alter how retirement benefits are calculated in the future. The shift wasn't being viewed as technical, it was being seen as structural. And for many experts, that distinction changes everything, because once you look beyond the headline change in the formula, you begin to see that this wasn't just one update. It was a series of interconnected adjustments, all targeting key components of how benefits are calculated and distributed. The first, as discussed, is the adjustment to the bend points themselves, lowering the percentages applied to your earnings across all three tiers. That alone alters the foundation of your monthly benefit. But the second change affects something equally important, your earnings limit. If you're working while receiving benefits before reaching full retirement age, under the updated rule, that earnings threshold has increased slightly, which may sound positive at first. However, the penalty for exceeding that limit has also become stricter. Previously, for every $2 you earned above the limit, $1 would be withheld from your benefits. Now it's $1 withheld for every $150 earned. This means working retirees could see a larger portion of their benefits reduced if they exceed that threshold, even unintentionally. The third change targets spousal benefits, and this is where many retirement strategies begin to shift. In the past, couples had more flexibility. One spouse could claim spousal benefits while delaying their own retirement benefit, allowing that personal benefit to grow over time. This approach was often referred to as claim and switch, and it helped maximize lifetime income for many households. Under the new rule, that flexibility has been removed. Filing is now coordinated, meaning if you claim one benefit, you are effectively claiming both. This eliminates a key planning strategy that many couples have relied on for years. And then there's the fourth change, survivor benefits. Previously, a surviving spouse could receive benefits based on what their partner was entitled to at full retirement age. Now that calculation is tied to what the deceased spouse was actually receiving, especially if they claimed early at a reduced rate. This shift may seem subtle, but in practice, it can significantly reduce the long-term financial security of surviving spouses. Individually, each of these changes might appear manageable, but together, they reshape the structure of Social Security benefits in a very real way. They affect how much you receive, when you receive it, and how flexible your options are along the way. And that's why the reaction wasn't just strong, it was immediate. Because for many retirees and those approaching retirement, this isn't just a policy update. It's a change that directly impacts decisions they're making right now.